Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
An unbelievable comeback from Carlo Ancelotti's men, as they scored 5 without reply after Liverpool took an early 2-0 lead. The XG was in Liverpool's favour, though a couple of free goals make this metric less reliable than usual. But how did Liverpool start so strong, and what happened tactically to allow Madrid to mount a comeback? Let's take a look at the game-deciding tactics. And let's begin with Liverpool in possession to see what initially went so well. In the initial phases, Liverpool were consistently able to break Real Madrid's central press, and this was because we often saw Vinicius being dragged in central from wide to help Benzema in the press. The Real Madrid midfield would be slow to back this up, and this would mean that at times, Fabinho would be able to receive the first pass out, meaning he could now face the rest of the play. Or, at times, if Fabinho was picked up, say by Modric, Henderson could be found in this right channel, and either way, it would mean that Liverpool had broken this first line of pressure. Even in scenarios where the entire midfield was picked up, if Vinicius was late to press the centre-back, it still meant that Henderson could receive despite being under pressure because he could lay off the first time pass into Alexander-Arnold, who was consistently free in this region. So in this scenario we see that Vinicius is central as he's anticipating the pass to Gomez, who he could then press. Of course, that now means that Liverpool have Trent and Henderson potentially free, and Trent is now found with the pass to support Salah. And this right hand side was a major target for Liverpool when it came to setting up their own attacks. Again, a key factor to this initially, especially early on, was the positioning of Vinicius during the defensive phase. Even when Vinicius did start deeper on the pitch in more of a 4-5-1 as we saw later on in the game, when Trent received the ball in deeper areas, he could still be drawn out, meaning that this right hand side still had a lot of potential for Liverpool. In general, this right hand side triangle was always rotating, but the most common scenarios were if Henderson was deep, Trent would move into the right hand half space. And with Vinicius high up and potentially out of the picture, Henderson deeper could draw Modric towards him, and what this now meant is that Salah and Rudiger potentially had 2 versus 1s against Alaba and later Nacho, or even a 2 versus 2 situation, and Trent would at times be willing to make runs into the half space. What this would mean is that if Rudiger followed, there was more space created in this region, or if Alaba followed Trent, Salah now had room to explore. So generally this caused Real Madrid a lot of problems. But the other common scenario we saw down this right hand side was Trent instead operating deeper, and in these scenarios Henderson could be in the half space as well, but was much more likely to look to overlap outside of Salah. And what this would often mean is that when Salah received the ball, Henderson's movement would mean Alaba/Nacho wouldn't be able to stay touch tight to Salah as he went infield. So basically, more room was opened up for Salah to move infield to look for a shot or a pass. A more transitional situation, but we see that Vinicius is high up the pitch, and our 2 men, Salah and Henderson, are already down that right hand side. When Henderson plays the ball to Salah, he looks to make inroads down the flank, although in this case it comes to nothing. But similar scenarios were key to the first goal. Vinicius is caught high up on the attack once again, and down the right, Salah and Henderson are looking to exploit the situation. So we see this scenario again, and Trent is already looking to join them. Henderson again plays it to Salah and ties up Alaba so that now Salah has room in which to cut in. That momentary space was all he needed to get his head up so that he could find Núñez with the pass. Soon Madrid switched their defensive shape to a more dedicated 4-5-1 with Vinicius starting much deeper. And when a press was required against the centre-backs, it would be Modric from midfield who would push up to create the 2, as this would allow more central protection as he could use his pressing angle to still cut out a pass to a midfielder, unlike Vinicius when he was pressing from out to in, who still left all the passing lanes open. But this still wasn't a perfect solution for Madrid, as there could still be a man down in midfield when Modric was pressing higher up. Even if Modric was starting deeper in that more conservative 4-5-1, a player who looked like he could be a key man early on was Cody Gakpo, who, from this forward position, would often look to find the gaps and create passing lanes to be found when a man looked to press a deeper midfielder. And he did get into promising situations, as we saw in that first goal, but wasn't always able to make the most of it. So here we see Madrid in more of a midfield 5 when defending. And initially they look well set up, but one of the midfielders is drawn towards Fabinho to not give him too much time on the ball. This means Gakpo can receive between the lines. So Madrid eventually sat deeper in a much more passive 4-5-1, which they're much more than happy to do. And in the early phases, Liverpool were able to deal with any potential transitions, because what we did often see is that when the ball was lost in these regions, when Madrid looked to play out to Vinicius, Henderson would be quick to cover across. But as discussed, Liverpool were really going for this right-hand side overload, so at times he could be caught high up as well. But if the ball was lost down this right-hand side, Fabinho would have the time to come across and cover, stopping any potential transitions. And as we've seen in encounters between these two sides, Trent and Vinicius is a bit of a gamble, with both of these men allowing their opposite number to attack at times to give them the room to transition. And on this day, it didn't quite pay off for Trent, especially on that first goal. So from the throw, we see that the Liverpool right-hand side triangle is high, and usually that would have been fine if the ball was lost in this region, because Fabinho would have the time to come across and cover attacks down this zone. But because he is the man that loses the ball, there's no time for him to drop back and then cover. With Vinicius having been defending high, he now has plenty of room to attack. And he's able to assist Benzema for the 5th goal. So what did Madrid do in possession to look so dangerous? Initially, Liverpool were actually doing great in the pressing phase, and this was by applying pressure on both of the centre-backs through Gakpo and Salah coming in off the right-hand side. At the same time, the midfield could essentially go man-to-man, making it extremely difficult for Madrid to find them, which wasn't helped by not having Toni Kroos or Tchouaméni on the pitch, who are both great at retaining the ball. This would then be backed up by trying to send Real Madrid down the right-hand side, where Núñez was much wider and could press the fullback immediately. So here we see that shape, with Gakpo and Salah as the front two, looking to directly apply pressure on the centre-backs. Núñez drops deeper down the left, ready to press Carvajal, as they've shepherded the ball down this side, whilst the midfield three is ready to back this up. When Madrid was still adjusting, the shape worked well for Liverpool, due to Núñez's cover out to the left, and Madrid playing fairly slowly across the back line, meaning by the time it got to Rudiger, Henderson would have time to come across to press Alaba, with the rest of the midfield shifting across to apply pressure to the easy outlets. But soon, Madrid adjusted to Liverpool's pressing patterns, and one of the keys to that was by playing with a much quicker tempo. This could be by direct switches to Vinicius, or more likely out to the left back in Alaba or Nacho. If they managed to do this quickly enough, Henderson wouldn't have the time to cover across. And you feel that is one of the keys, because where in previous years both Fabinho and Henderson had the energy to go for 90 minutes, at times it did feel like they didn't have the legs to keep coming across to cover. So Alaba and Nacho, when he came on, often found the room to drive higher up the pitch and look to create 2-versus-1s out against Trent. So, perhaps more commonly than a direct switch out to Vinicius or to the left back was Benzema and the impact of his movement in these phases. We could often see him move into the half space so that both Gomez and Trent were tied up, so that when the switch came, Vinicius had a running start against Trent in these 1v1 situations where he excels and Trent struggles. But that wasn't the only solution for Benzema, as he could also drop deeper into the midfield, and the key here would be tying up Henderson, who then couldn't go across to cover the left back as efficiently when he came out, due to Benzema's presence, allowing these potential 2-versus-1s once again. And at times, Benzema would just come wide to cause the overload, with the left back also joining in, so that often, with Modric and the rest of the midfield joining to draw Liverpool's own midfield, we would have somewhat of 3-versus-2s in these situations, as Salah often wouldn't have the time to come back and even things up in the defensive phase. So, time and again we saw Vinicius have success against both Trent and Gomez, and this led to several of the goals. So here we see Benzema in the half space is drawing both Trent and Gomez, and Alaba has moved up higher to left back. Salah and Gakpo are still forming the front two, so this makeshift midfield four of Liverpool's with Núñez deeper shift across towards the ball. And already we have a 3-versus-2 or a 3-versus-1 situation out wide before the switch even comes in. And once it does, Modric's run draws Gomez, Trent is drawn to Benzema, so Vinicius can produce an outstanding finish. Once again, Liverpool are operating with the front two, and Henderson is drawn towards Modric, meaning both Nacho and Vinicius have room. As discussed, the tempo of the pass was key, and Rudiger immediately finds Vinicius Jr. up against Trent, which is never a good situation. Vinicius easily goes past Trent, drawing Gomez across, and this leads to the free kick that allows Madrid to score the third goal. This match was peak Ancelotti and peak Real Madrid, where their in-game management of situations, as well as their calmness and tactical intelligence, saw them rescue a situation that threatened to be too far gone. Madrid will fancy themselves to go through, but should only look at what their great rivals Barcelona would think of a 3-goal first leg lead against Liverpool. For the tactical score, Ancelotti targeting the right-hand side was excellent, meaning he earns an 8. Whilst Klopp's tactics weren't bad, but at times, aging legs in the team let him down, meaning he earns a 6. But what do you think? Drop your thoughts down below.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.